Hey, tonight on the Cooligans, we're going to be talking about the Liga MX semifinal.
That's right. Mexico gets litty.
That's right. That's how they preferred. That's the moniker. And we're also going to be joined by Ives Galarcep of SBI Soccer, talking about a bunch of trash.
National team, MLS, everything, that and more today on the
Cooligans!
Yeah, baby!
Yes, we are here, back again. Crazy.
Thursday.
The third is December.
Yeah.
Man.
2019.
Bro, yo, it's a month.
Wow.
one of the craziest.
That's right. We took drugs before the show started. And we're surprised. That's where this shirt came from. This is the loudest thing I've ever worn on this show.
Okay, that's right.
You're louder than me.
Yes,
Talisman.
we got to turn on the volume on the shirt.
Yeah, shouts to Talisman for the drip that my wife is going to hate. But I'm still wearing it.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Hi, my name is Christian Polanco.
That's right. He's Christian Blanco. I'm Alexis Guerreros.
Okay, we are your favorite stand-up comedians that host the funniest soccer show that you've ever seen in your life.
That's right. Those are facts. But it's not just that. It's also the gulliest. Yeah.
that's me letting people know how gully.
The gully is. You like an upset girlfriend? Okay. You don't stop in no more.
I'm just hyping Alexis up right now.
Yeah. I thought you were cutting. I thought you were calling cut on the show.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can I just...
we the directors now. We the captain of the ship now.
So, hello. Thank you for tuning in. We're excited to welcome our guest that we have.
Oh, that's right. I thought it was just going to be us chit-chatting, but somebody else sitting on this couch.
Imagine we didn't address him for 60 minutes.
Over him for an hour.
Yeah, thank you for showing up.
Yo, good times, man.
Now go home.
Yeah, we'll tag you in all this. Now, we're super excited to have this guy on. We were hanging out in Germany with this. We flew us out to Germany. No, we were hanging out in Germany. We've been seeing this dude at every major soccer sporting event since we started, and no one has been more supportive than this guy. At least telling us to go for it. He's never written an article about us or anything, but he's always been telling us to keep going. Mostly because I think he knows we annoy everyone else.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's driving. Put your hands together for the one, the only Ives Galarcep, everybody.
Ives, what's up, man?
Thanks for having me. I think I'm glad I wore black to kind of balance out the color here.
Yeah, when they do the wide on the two of us, it's going to be kind of a juxtaposition.
Ives, thank you for joining us. Yes, and we should talk about the fact that, we were hanging out in Germany together. And for us, and Alexis did mention, like, we had seen you in a lot of MLS events. We went to, we started going to, MLS Cup in 2016 and being sort of around a lot of the journalists. And when we met you, we were like, this is a serious journalist guy, right? Like, we've read your articles for years. We never met you in person, but that was like one of the things where, like, when we were around a lot of journalists, we were like, oh, these people don't respect us, right? Because we're comedians. Yeah. They are journalists. They're like, and the American soccer journalism space is fairly small. The community's small.
Very insulated.
Everybody knows each other. But then when two comedians come rolling around with their stupid jokes,
we're doing bits, like a couple of ha-has, and they take their jobs very seriously. And then there's you, who I think appreciated some of the ha-has.
Yeah,
at least from the up jump. You know
and then in Germany, we got to actually, like, hang out, and so that was like a good experience. And I'm glad we got to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that trip to Germany definitely opened my eyes a little bit, and getting to know you guys and know that how serious you guys are about this, because being in the game for 20 years, I've seen a lot of guys come and go who aren't serious, and it's easy to write those guys off, but getting to, see that you guys are really serious about actually learning the sport and not just cracking jokes. It definitely put you in a different light for me. So.
Right, which goes to show how good we are at lying, right? Like, we're able to hide the fact that we're here to just crack jokes.
So you got catfish, Ives. Yeah. I mean, we're here to tell you.
Yeah, we don't know nothing about the sport. Why don't they pick the ball up, Ives? You tell me.
But no, you have been around the game for a long time, and what I love when, especially talking to you, we were hanging out with, like, Steve Cherundolo, and then you would be like, oh, in 2003, I was, I went to this game. and saw Steve, and I was like,
Or like Steve will say something like, "Oh, you know what happened in this game?" Or like in the locker room, and you'd be like, "Yeah, I was 2 feet away from you in 2001 when that happened," and we'd be like, "Damn, yo."
Yeah, so it's like one of these things where American soccer journalists are very like under the radar. Nobody knows the hard work that they're doing to kind of publicize the game. But you're like one of these people that have been around the game a long time and are responsible for kind of broadcasting it to other people. But nobody really knows who you are.
Well, part of it is being old. So I know you guys are like dancing around that, but I am pretty old. I've been doing it for 20 years, and it's crazy.
You started when you were 6, so like the guy just, you know what I mean? He's stressed.
He's a prodigy.
a lot of dyeing the hair and all that. But no, but it's crazy when you, as the time goes by and you see someone like a Steve Cherundolo. I remember when he was a kid on the 2002 World Cup team, like a late addition, and he was kind of a babe in the woods, and now he's a legendary former player, already gone through that cycle. So one of the cool things about putting that time in is seeing people kind of evolve and pass through and building those relationships with those people who know you've been in the game that long, and it just, nothing beats that kind of time when you have that time and that kind of reputation. So.
And what was the thing that kind of catapulted you in, like, was your interest in U.S. men's national team, in MLS, in American soccer in general? Like, what was the thing that got you going and interested in the topic to begin with?
Well, my background's Peruvian, so there was always soccer in the family, in the household. I actually played American football growing up. I played in high school and college, but my first job out of college was at a small newspaper in New Jersey, and the soccer beat came open, covering the Metro Stars, and it just so happens that a friend of mine from college was drafted by the Metro Stars and was on the team. So I told the editor, I said, "Hire me. I know someone on the team."
Yeah.
And the rest was kind of history. I started covering the team, the Herald News, and the tiny newspaper in Passaic County, and I just got lucky, and just covering the Metro Stars, everyone that came through there, from Tim Howard, Bob Bradley, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Bruce Arena, you name it, who's who of American soccer came through there, and I was there from 1999, and just building those relationships, it kind of just took off from there.
And what do you think is the reason for your longevity? Because you mentioned it before, people on our end, or that are trying to do kind of something similar to what we do, come and go. And we're dedicated to staying here. My wife, my accountant, my landlord, they've all begged us to stop. But we're dedicated to stay here, and we're trying to find more and more ways to sort of make it work. But we walked in at an era where the business is starting to kind of take off a little bit. You struggled through the parts of where the league was about to close, and how could this happen? What do you think you owe your longevity to?
Adapting. I think it's been adapting. I was a newspaper reporter for 10 years, and about 7 years in, I kind of got a sense that things were not heading in a good direction in newspapers, and that's when I quit and launched my own website, which was at the time definitely a scary and a bit of definitely a risky proposition. At the time, there weren't a lot of people doing that then. I was kind of one of the early ones to do it, and making that jump at the time that I made it helped me kind of ride a wave and get through some things. And it's all about being able to adapt, and I'm kind of going through that again now with another evolution and trying to work my way into video and that kind of thing. So the game evolves and media evolves, and that's kind of just trying to figure out what's the next wave, pretty much the way to kind of keep it going.
Yeah, there must have been newspaper people like, "Hey, Ives, you're crazy, all right? Newspapers isn't going to go anywhere."
Nobody wants to read off the screen. They want to hold it in their hand. What do you mean I don't have a job?
All right, we'll be back with more Ives right after this, everybody.
Yeah, that's right, baby. We're back, and we're here with Ives Galarcep. Ives, you have sort of this odd relationship with players. Like, when I see you talk to a player that you've met before, they have a warm relationship with you, but you still are like a traditional journalist, and where you sometimes kind of have to call them out or talk about something like them playing badly. How do you do that balance? Because we're very different. We're comedians. Like, we're never really going to go at them that way. You know what I mean? We're just here to pop jokes. Like, if they play badly, we make a joke of it, and it kind of gets forgiven. You're a little different. You're breaking down how they play badly. Like, how do you manage to sort of keep their? Because one of the things that I think I really sort of have gotten to see over time and recognize is, like, man, he's really good at sort of being like a friend to these guys?
Yeah, it can definitely be tough the more you're around players, and they definitely read everything. And one thing I've learned through the years is coaches take criticism a lot better than players do, because a coach, you can rip. I mean, I've had coaches that I've absolutely shredded, and they'll be like nothing happened, and they get it. You know, generally, they get that it's the job. Players sometimes it's like, you know, you'll be dead to them. I mean, I remember years ago I wrote a column critical of Amaro Guevara, who I had been, you know, I was very cool with it, but when he came back to MLS, I kind of wrote about why the team shouldn't have brought him back and everything. And the next time we were in a mix zone after a Honduras-Mexico game, he like stopped his interview session when he saw me, and he's like, "I'm not going to talk until he leaves." Whoa. And I just like laughed at him and then left. And then the next time I saw him was in Toronto at an MLS game, and he gave me a hug. So it's like, it can be.
He's bipolar.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. So it can be volatile.
Maybe it was just the free healthcare where he was like a little bit more comfortable.
When it comes down to it, you just have to be honest. And I think as much as a player at the moment might be pissed off that you criticize them, I think deep down they know if you're honest or not. And I think there's a line between being kind of critical and also kind of being like maybe overboard and maybe like taking personal shots and that kind of thing.
Or mean-spirited,
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, because I mean, there's definitely been players who I know at the time were super upset, but years later they'll be like, "Oh no, you were right. It was time for me to retire," or it was, you know, or this and that kind of thing. So I think they get it at the end of the day, and it also when people see that you're just straight up, that shows everywhere, and people realize like, okay, like he's straight up, he's honest. So.
Yeah. And you've seen the U.S. men's national team program specifically throughout the years, and I just kind of if we can, you know, give some sort of synopsis of what's going on right now, because it seems like it's at its oddest, where obviously missing a World Cup especially in your time, is unique, and that response to it is also a thing we're all kind of figuring out for the first time on how to criticize it and also how to, you know, how to support it as well. But your sort of thoughts of these last like 2-3 years of what has been, you know, from the coaching, you know, how long it took to get a coach and all these other issues, and how the program is being run. What is like the starkest difference from the earlier years to now?
Well, I think it's really just kind of been a perfect storm of crap in a certain way, because you had missing the World Cup.
A shitstorm, so to speak.
Yeah, there you go. You say a shitstorm. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was. I didn't know it was a PG show. Actually, I have watched it.
Say whatever the hell you want, baby.
Right. Yeah, no. So it's been a bit of a shitstorm, but it's not making the World Cup. And also a team that was kind of going through a cycle in terms of players, where an older generation moved on. When you talk about guys like Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, who carried the program for so long. So you don't make the World Cup. U.S. fans have PTSD now from that whole experience. Yep. So now everything anything that looks negative or anything that looks like it isn't progress, it just sets people off. And that's why now there are these, like, for me, I think slightly overboard reactions to you know, what are natural steps for a team that's in transition, for a team that's integrating a young generation and a young coach, a coach who we all know had never coached a national team before. So the fact that people are kind of freaking out because this coach who's never coached a national team before is having some growing pains, I think you understand it, because that pain of missing the World Cup is still so fresh. But at the same time, for me, like I'm not as emotionally tied into it, so I kind of see it from the outside, and I'm not ready to jump on him just yet, Greg Berhalter. I think, you know, we'll see in 2020 really what he's doing with this program. So
that's right. You heard it here first, Greg Berhalter. Ives is taking his time before he decides if he's going to jump you or not. I'm joking. He is from Jersey, I gotta tell you. Watch out, Greg. We're only kidding, Berhalter. But here's a question. I think part of the reason why I think the fans are having such a visceral reaction to every little thing that's happening is because the one thing that has been begged for by either MLS fans or just men's national team fans, or really U.S. soccer fans in general, is more transparency. And for whether it's good or bad reason, it seems like Ernie Stewart has sort of taken a sort of like entrenching himself even further into the lack of transparency. And now it almost seems like it's secretive, everything that's happening, and like there's no one hears from anyone and no one knows what's happening. And I think that adds to the frustration. I can understand why they do that, because they decide, like, let's keep it all in house and figure it out on our own before we go out. But also it seems like fans are upset and nothing's happening. In your time, have you ever seen it be this way? It seems like this is the most sort of NSA like that we've had it in a while.
There definitely is this kind of trust us, we know what we're doing attitude, and it's like the worst possible time to have that attitude when
Right.
people are still so that emotion is so raw from missing the World Cup. If anything, now is the time when you need to be a bit more transparent. And we had a chance to talk to Ernie Stewart down in Florida, and just some of the things that he was saying, I'm kind of like, man, like, how, like I get it if you think you see progress deep down, but like he was just like some of the things he said, I as he's saying them, I'm like, ooh, that's people are gonna people are not gonna like what they're hearing from him, and see. So I agree with you. I think there definitely needs to be more transparency, and you can't just ignore the fact that they didn't hire a coach for a whole year, and that just added to that angst. It added to the negative feelings of missing the World Cup. So for the U.S. Soccer and for the leadership to kind of just expect people to ignore that, like I think that's a little unreasonable.
What was the sort of general? I don't know if his consensus is not the word, but like the approach to journalism pre-Twitter, right? Because we're more aware of all this angst and all these issues and all the criticism because we're being inundated with it. Does it feel, is it an echo chamber where it's just a couple people kind of screaming loudly, or is it even before Twitter, before social media, were these kinds of criticisms also available to us?
Well, I think if you want to go back 10, 15, 20 years, Big Soccer, the message board was probably where you saw that kind of.
Speaking of a shitstorm.
Yeah, I mean that's really where the negativity could be found. And now, obviously, with social media, everyone can go on and express their frustrations, and there's definitely valid feelings there, and people have a right to feel upset about certain things. But it can get overboard, and people can. It's crazy now. You see like just very simple like tweets by U.S. Soccer just saying whatever, and then the comments are just like, this is just killing it. That doesn't even like happy birthday. Happy birthday to this guy. He should die.
He don't deserve cake.
Yeah, exactly. Like Jesse's artist got a happy birthday, and it's like I had to read the comments because I knew it was just gonna be. And it's just because, and that's not. I wouldn't say 90% of the U.S. national team fans feel that way, but that whatever percent, that small percent is definitely out there, and they're vocal on social media.
And all Jesse does is score a bunch of goals all the time.
Every time he gets,
and everybody's still upset.
He's the nicest guy, the most hated guy. It'd be one thing if he were like just a jerk, and then he'd be like, everyone hate him, but he's like the nicest guy, so it's such a weird kind of difference there.
Well, get some tougher skin, start being a jerk. No, I'm joking. We got more with Ives when we get back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're still here with Ives Galarcep of SBIsoccer.com. Ives, you are a person who, especially you have like an Americans Abroad piece that you are regularly. You're always checking to see what all the young Americans are doing all
I thought
over
it was
the
just
world.
writing about us being in Germany. Brian?
Well, that was that.
Here's what Alexis ate.
What was
How many pounds of pork?
Yeah.
what would have been the recap of our time in Germany if
well, no goals, 15 pounds of pork, and 2 gallons of beer, I think.
Nice.
No, I don't. Not what Serginho Dest did. I'm talking about. Okay. No, you do follow a lot of the players, and that's why I love your website, because you can kind of stay up to date with a lot of that stuff.
You don't have to watch all those leagues. Like, you get a bit of a synopsis.
So I want to sort of just talk about the Serginho Dest decision. Taking his talents to the U.S. men's national team.
How the U.S. was his destiny.
What? A couple of them. Maybe we can go through a few. Your thoughts on Serginho Dest and the fact that he made the decision.
I thought he wasn't going to choose the U.S. at all.
Yeah, there was definitely that sense from the outside. But when you look at his career and the way it went, I mean, the Dutch didn't know anything about him really when he was coming up, and he was on the U17 team, and I remember seeing him on U17s and thought this kid has some serious ability. And then just him, you could see how close he was with the U20 group. I was down there for CONCACAF qualifying, that tournament in where you guys are headed, actually, Bradenton. Yeah. And you could tell already then that group was so tightly knit, and I really think that's what did it. That's ultimately what kind of convinced him, even after the Dutch national team came into the picture, he had built those relationships with that U20 group, and they went to the U20 World Cup together. And I think when he really thought about it, he thought, like, this is the group that I'm going to spend my career with, and as much as the U.S. isn't the Netherlands, this U.S. group, this U20 group, could do something special down down the road, and I'm sure his guys told him that. I'm sure Chris Richards, Alex Mendez, and Chris Kloster, I'm sure all those guys were kind of like, listen, we got something special here. You could be part of it, and it also means something, the fact that the U.S. believed in him early on and gave him those opportunities, and I give him, I respect him for sticking with the program that gave him his chance.
Why is it that the U.S. can find kids that are being sort of looked past by other nations, but not find those same kids here? Because when Christian Pulisic wrote that sort of story for Players Tribune, you should have had him write it for SBI Soccer, by the way. He said that there was a lot of talent that's being overlooked. Why is that still so much of an issue here?
Oh man, that's the $1 million question.
We got like 8 hours.
I'd be running I'd have an academy director job, I think, if I could answer that one. But part of it, I think, is you haven't had that quality in leadership to be able to identify talent. I think now you're seeing more of that kind of talent develop, and you're also seeing people coming from Europe coming over here and getting jobs, and to help run academies and help identify talent. There's definitely segments of the population that are being overlooked. We've heard all about the Latino population and why the people that look like us and that grew up where we grew up. That's kind of the untapped resource.
Let me just say, anyone who looks like me, you don't have a shot.
Just give up right now.
Yeah. Buddy, get into making sandwiches.
And that's what's crazy about this country is, like, in the other kind of the big soccer countries, the kids from the poor backgrounds are the ones who go on to be the stars. Here, as Zlatan Ibrahimovic said recently, like, you almost have to be rich to be able to afford to have your kids play soccer. So those are issues that need to be addressed. And once, I don't have the answer to that, but hopefully as academies improve, as MLS, and I think MLS has to be at the forefront of that, of building better academies and doing a better job of identifying talent, not just the talent that can afford $3,000, $4,000 to play youth soccer, but also going into New York City, into Newark, into those communities where they haven't been looking hard enough, and finding that talent.
Yeah, nice. It's a generally a frustrating thing. I mean, we've talked about it for years, but yeah, like, that's the kind of the main thing. Like, nobody.
Let us be scouts.
You know what? No, that's not.
Wow. We haven't even got an offer yet. You're already making it easy for them to go negotiate.
Because we're not qualified for the job.
You saw us in Germany, right? If there's a kid anywhere beyond pork, I'll see him.
Near pork or what?
Some young comedic talent. No
yeah,
question.
there you go.
No
okay.
question.
But the kid's got bits.
Another person I wanted to talk about was Gio Reyna, who is now with Borussia Dortmund, and he was just on the squad recently.
Looking incredible, by the way.
So when we were in Germany, you were talking a lot about Claudio Reyna, and who's related to Gio Reyna. So that's supposed to be a joke, anyway. But he left NYCFC he wasn't transferred to Dortmund. He just left on a free. I guess because they didn't sign him, but he was with the academy. So it's. I guess the main question is, like, it seems like they left on bad terms, right? Is that safe to say, or no?
I don't think it was necessarily bad terms. I mean, I think he just made the decision that he made to go to Dortmund to continue his development. And Dortmund, obviously, when you look at European academies, I mean, they're at the top. You could argue they've been the best in recent years at producing young talent. So I don't think anyone could knock him for making that decision to go there and play in that setup. I'm sure NYCFC wasn't happy about it. I'm sure City Football Group wasn't happy about it, because now here's a player that they could have kept in their system, and with his talent maybe one day could have gone straight to Man City instead of them now having to spend $70 million in 3 years for him. So I'm sure from that standpoint they weren't happy, but Claudio Reyna was in that weird position of, I'm the dad, but I'm also running the team at the time. So that had to be a weird spot for him, but he's a dad. He's going to do what's best for his kid, and his kid wanted to go to Europe, and you can totally see why he did it. And looking at already what he's done in this year and change that he's been there, it's clearly been the right decision. I mean, no one can knock it. He's a special talent. I mean, he is that when you talk about the teenagers that coming up, I mean, he is that next, most likely to be the next Pulisic, because everyone's talking about Christian Pulisic and who's going to be the next one. Yeah. Not to put all the pressure on him and say he's going to be as good, but if anyone right now coming up is going to be the next one, he's the leading candidate.
What position would he play at the national team? Any idea?
He'd probably be on the wing.
Yeah.
I actually asked Greg Berhalter about him back in May. I had to sit down with Berhalter, and it's a unique situation because Berhalter and Claudio Reyna are like long-time, close, super tight friends. So he's known Gio since he was a baby, and he knows he has talent there. So, but again, you have to take your time, and you're not going to rush him in. He hasn't played for the first team yet, but the talent is there. Anyone who's seen the clips of him with the U19s, you know that something is special there. And if you want to feel really old, consider the fact that the 2002 World Cup, where the U.S. made the run to the quarterfinals, Gio Reyna was in his mom's belly in South Korea. So he was actually there at the World Cup in 2002. Makes me feel super old. Yeah. He's already been to the World Cup.
Yeah, he's ready for the World Cup. You know, they say like you play like classical music to the belly. You know what I mean? He was out here listening to the U.S. just winning some games. You know what I mean?
Wow.
We're playing pretty well.
Wow. I did not expect Gio Reyna to be at a World Cup before Christian Pulisic.
Yeah.
Pretty shocked.
There you go. Right. His mom's belly did not qualify for the flight. Why don't we have more with Ives when I get back?
I'm Luke Moore from Football Ramble Daily, and I just got gully with the Cooligans.
That's right, baby. We're back, and we are here still with Ives Galarcep, SBIsoccer.com, SBI YouTube channel. Check him out. Tweet at him, say some wild stuff. He'll respond back.
He loves that. It's his favorite thing.
We mentioned it before, but we got to hang out a little bit in Germany, and sort of we had met you before, but that was the first time that we really got like immersed. Like we hung out, we went to multiple cities, we were taking trains and stuff together. What was that experience like for you? Because you had been to those before. We had never been.
Yeah, no, this trip was, for me, it was a special trip, not just because everything we got to see, but hanging out with you guys and the Total Soccer Show guys who I hadn't got to know before. And you've also probably put some years in my life by giving me some advice.
I was smacking cigarettes out of his hand.
I said, put the pipe down. No, but it was one morning. It was like the first morning we were in Germany, and I'm like struggling with the jet lag, and I'm like looking for coffee. And I made a mention how I usually microwave my milk or something when I have coffee, and Alexis was like, never microwave milk. And then after that, it just stayed in my head. I literally have not microwaved liquids since then. So
what I told him is, I don't think I've ever told you this before. They did a study where they microwaved water and let it cool back down until it was the same temperature as room temperature water, and they fed different plants with the microwaved water and one with the regular water, and the microwaved water killed the plants because there's less nutrients when you microwave a liquid. So I was telling him, I'm like, you got an oven? And he's like, yeah. I was like, you got a stovetop? It's like, yeah. I'm like, well, then stop microwaving your liquids. Just put it in a pot.
Okay.
And as soon as it bubbles, it's hot enough for your coffee. You're good, just like our grandparents used to do.
Boiling milk every day now, thanks to
my man's boiling milk.
Okay.
And it makes it sweeter, does it not?
It's better.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I'm just look. I don't really expect Alexis to give health advice to anyone. Exactly. Anything about nutrition.
He said this before I watched him eat, and then after seeing the pork, I wouldn't have listened to him if he said it after that.
I got a pork knuckle in my mouth. I'm like, you know what you should do? Stop microwaving.
You need to start exercising, bro.
You thought about crunches? Speaking of crunches, I think I've been through the bone. All right. And then, by the way, like 3 hours after this conversation, me and the dude from Bleacher Report, Sam, we ordered the trough of pork. That the guy was like, this price is per person. This is for 3 people. Like, nah, we'll take it down.
Yeah.
We did a pretty good job.
It was practically a whole pig in a pot, and they ate like the whole thing.
One of the things listed was many different sausages, and we ate them all, baby. The blood ball, the meatball made of blood was a little much, but everything else was pretty great.
Oh, that's when they took it too far.
Well, they did put the whole pig in there. I mean, it was pretty great. You mentioned before about like sort of how you have to adapt a little bit, right? What are you seeing in the sphere now? When you started your own website, Twitter became like the big hot thing. Seems like Instagram. Are you going to get on TikTok next? You're going to be doing them dance videos?
I want to see some Ives Galarcep makeup tutorials.
Lip sync to your favorite Vapor Trap song.
Well, I'll tell you what. One thing I've learned is that you definitely need to adapt. You also have to if I'm old, so I'm not gonna. Instagram. I'm definitely trying to use Instagram more, but it's funny. I have a 16-year-old son, and he kind of makes fun of me when I tell him like, I'm doing YouTube now, I'm doing Instagram. He's like, what's wrong with you? Why are you trying to? I'm like, that's just the way it's going. But I mean, you do have to kind of adapt, but you also have to know your limitations. So no, I'm not gonna do any makeup. Wait, maybe I might do a few.
Your little foundation.
So what do you think? So you were, while you were working at a newspaper, you sort of saw like the its dying days, and you were like, oh, I got to get out early. Is there something now that you see like the future of soccer journalism? Like where do you sort of feel it's moving, and do you feel like that you owe something to your loyal readers that like, oh, you're gonna stick to the website and not really try to do other stuff? Like, do you feel torn in any way?
Well, one thing I would say is when you talk to most people now, obviously people will say media is dying and the industry is definitely going through some tough things right now. But I think in terms of soccer, I think soccer is kind of in the United States is in a kind of rebound mode. And I think obviously with missing the World Cup, that caused a lot of damage, especially in the media landscape. A lot of people lost their jobs. But I think now with 2026, it'll be here before you know it. And I can already see like the business world kind of starting to like aim at that. And with that, I think you're going to see investment in the media space. And for old heads like me, who hopefully are still around, I think I'll be in a good position for that. And I think you will see more investment and people are always going to want to read, maybe not newspapers anymore, but I think people are always going to want to read. And I think people are going to want to see video. And I'm kind of trying to go into that area as well. But I mean, there's always going to be an audience for analysis and insight and interviews. So I think from that standpoint, things are headed in a good direction.
I feel like soccer, as far as like journalism, like the reading the content is probably best or I don't want to say the best necessarily, but like the most, it feels like the most passion compared to the other sports, right? The other sports is just so huge. Like you know, if you write on ESPN, you write or whatever, you're going to get a lot of viewership for the sake because people are just on those sites. But if you're working in soccer and you're writing about soccer, you love this, man. There's no way you're doing this without like real heart and real passion. So that's what it feels like when it comes to print media per se, or writing in general. Soccer is like the last one that'll be to go. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that your job is ending tomorrow. But it just feels like the most still relevant. That makes any sense.
No, I agree. And I think part of that is because there's not as much of the other forms of media available for soccer. So there's still that abundance of written content. And now you're seeing it. You're seeing more of it. And I think if there's anything I worry about is the fact that you get a lot of people that, not a lot, but you get some people who come in that maybe don't have the same kind of standards to the way they approach the business. So I'm not going to call anyone out, but that's kind of an issue.
Feel free to call anybody out.
That's it for me. That's the thing where I worry about, and maybe as an old head, I look at people with a little bit of a side eye, like, why you got to do that? Why are you doing that? Why are you trafficking in BS and rumors and this and that? But that's just the nature of the beast. And I think people at the end of the day will appreciate quality over time. And if you show that you do quality work over time and aren't about the BS, that people will follow.
Because we even saw like TMZ when they reported Wayne Rooney arriving, and it was the worst piece of coverage. It was like nothing they said was accurate. Nothing made any real sense. They were criticizing, retirement league this, and they're like, you don't even know.
You don't know how to pronounce Zlatan Ibrahimovic. How are you?
One thing I would say, times have changed in the sense that like 10, 15 years ago, if you got something wrong, like you had to wear that for like months. I mean, if you wrote something and it ended up being false, nowadays you get something wrong and people forget about it in a day. And it's like, for me as an old head, like I still remember the old days, and like so I feel bad. Like if I get something wrong, I'm like I feel bad about it for a long time. But people seriously forget, and that's good and bad, because it's bad because there are people who know that now. So they're like, you know what, I'm gonna throw these 10 things out there.
Sure.
2 of them might be true, but people might not notice. So I just tell everyone, be careful what you consume, and pay attention to people who get a lot of things wrong, and maybe stop reading those people.
Okay.
Well, stop reading The Athletic, says SBI.
Those guys are great.
No, those guys are great.
It's funny because sometimes we get messages from people that are like, hey, you guys this wasn't accurate. I'm like,
yeah, we know.
We know. We know.
We're comedians.
Please, if you're coming here for accuracy, please don't.
Go to a different car. You're on the wrong car of this train. Go to SBI.
So, Ives, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really, really appreciate it. But where can people follow you?
Especially the YouTube channel now, right?
Let people know.
Yeah, it's early days, but definitely go to the SBI Soccer YouTube channel, and also obviously SBISoccer.com. That's where you can find my writing, and there'll be more videos coming, especially once I kick the year off. And I'm planning to bring back the SBI show, the podcast. Another
podcast you got to compete with.
I had the podcast out years ago, but now that the BSI, there's like a bootleg. It's like the Chinatown version of the SBI show.
These MLS players.
Swap 2 letters.
Yeah, I know. Hey, you either gonna be a player, or you gonna be a journalist, you can't be both.
No, I miss it, and I definitely want to get back to doing it. And I think hanging around you guys and hanging around the Total Soccer Show guys kind of
showed you how easy it is.
Yeah, like if these guys can do it, I should get back to doing it.
If the guy with multiple sausages on his plate could do it, then I could do it. Good point.
Ives, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. All right, guys, we'll be back with more after this.
That's right, baby. We're back. I mean, what a wonderful interview with Ives.
Ives, great human being.
This great dude.
Just OG journalist, bro. Make sure you follow him.
That's what it says on his business card. OG journalist.
It says business on it.
And one of the things that you and I have said we wanted to start doing is watching more Mexican soccer, right?
Yes.
So we decided to watch Liguilla, which is their playoff system. And it has been absolutely bananas.
Yeah, you get as many red cards as you do goals.
Yo, it is the littiest league ever.
No, it's yeah, we kind of made that conscious effort to be like, all right, let's watch it some more so we can be more aware of what's going on.
Right.
The final is coming up pretty soon on the 26th.
Right.
Between America and Monterrey.
Monterrey, Rayados, as they like to be called now, even though the fans hate it.
Do they hate it?
The team wants to be called Los Rayados, and they don't like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't want to be called that. They want to be called Monterrey.
Really? Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Well, speaking of, not only the Rayados they got into the final, but the women won the final
That's
as
right.
well.
They won the femenil.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, just Rayados, Monterrey, whatever, they're all getting dubbed.
Yeah,
right? They're winning.
Write whatever you want on these multiple trophies you be winning.
Call me whatever you want, but all I know, I'm getting the trophy.
Yeah.
So it has been pretty cool. So the semifinal of the second leg of each game between Necaxa and Monterrey. Monterrey won the second leg 1-0. Aggregate, they won 3-1. But I mean, just watching these games, you start to feel like yeah, there is a little bit of craziness. Like it usually, especially in MLS in the last year in the two-leg playoff system, it was always like one game was like a dud, and then the second game was like the one that really
Insane,
mattered.
yeah.
That one was insane. Not in Liga MX.
No, they turned it up to 10. As soon as you blow the whistle,
both games are just wild.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously it makes it tougher. Like, obviously, Necaxa was going to have a tough time against.
Necaxa's a great team this year, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, but so the interesting, all I really knew about Necaxa was the first time I ever even saw them play was in the preseason game that NYCFC went to Necaxa to play against them. They went to play their like B squad.
Yeah.
And this was the one where Justin Hack, remember, he played in the game and they kept yelling Cavani.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, which is just hilarious, right? He's a kid. He wasn't even
Just has long hair.
He was an academy player. I don't think he was even signed yet. If I could be mistaken. So he's a kid. He happens to look like Edison Cavani a little bit.
Yeah.
And the Mexican fans in Necaxa lost their minds.
Yeah. That's all they needed to see was long hair. And they were like, Cavani.
Cheering.
Cavani.
I mean, it must have been a surreal experience for him, right? Just like kicking the ball around. But every time he touched the ball, a stadium of thousands of people lost their minds.
Yeah,
and he's a kid. He was like 15 at the time. But so, yes. So
Imagine every time you touch the ball, thousands of people yell, Nani, Nani.
bro, that would.
How lit would that be? I touch the ball, people are like, Dom DeLuise, Dom DeLuise. You know what I mean? I'd be lit.
How do the Mexican fans know Dom DeLuise? So I'm a huge fan
They
of
got a lot of references for American culture.
So Monterrey won the second leg, and then the other match between Monarcas, Morelia, and Club America.
Club America, what a wonderful team. I mean, they will smother you no matter where you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this one was interesting because Monarcas won the first game 2-0.
Right.
And then America came back to win, but they won on away goals. But this is they just needed like Club America. they're always there, right? They were in the Campeones Cup.
Right.
They're always
Gio
the
Dos
final.
Santos plays there not right now because he had a chunk of his leg ripped off.
When a chunk of your leg is missing, it makes it tough to work in soccer.
Can I just tell you something? This is how lit the Mexican league is. One of the players had a chunk of his leg removed during the game.
Yeah, I mean, you say it removed like it was a surgical procedure.
It kind of was.
It wasn't an elective surgery.
The slow motion, it looked like the Zapruder film. It was disgusting. Part of his leg exploded off of his leg.
Yeah, I mean, look it up. Don't look it up. If you're squeamish, do not look it up.
Don't look it up if you're squeamish.
It's pretty bad. But yeah, so
If you like ketchup, don't look it up.
what does that even mean? So yes, so the final, which is going to be, I believe, December 26th.
Available on fuboTV. Both legs of it.
Yes, and the 29th on through the internet on fuboTV. Make sure you're on there again. Also, we have a FuboTV.com/Cooligans if you want to do a free trial.
Yeah, get yourself a little discount, a little trial.
Save a little bit of money. But no, so we're gonna watch these. So we're excited about these because especially MLS offseason. Once the Apertura is over, then also there's a lot of rumors of a lot of these players possibly coming to MLS.
Right. One of the Club America players is being looked at by, I believe, Chicago, if I'm not mistaken.
In Miami, I've heard.
In Miami, that's right.
Yeah. So
making their first DP, right? Will be. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
I forgot the guy's name too. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Renato Ibarra. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. But
You're probably wrong.
Am I probably wrong?
Probably wrong.
Hey, we're learning. We're picking it up as we go.
Come on, buddy. We'll get there.
But the so the final, the 26th and 29th.
Again, we'll be watching it on Fubo TV. I suggest you do the same thing.
All right. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back right after this, guys. All right, welcome back, guys. So we also have to talk about the CONCACAF Champions League because
I believe you just mean the Champions League.
That's right, the one and only Champions
when
League.
you say Champions League, the first thing I think about is what's going on down in Costa Rica.
Okay, what's happening in Honduras right about now?
What's in San Salvador? What's the weather like for a game right now?
No, the CONCACAF Champions League, the draw is out, and they try to do.
That's right, your draws are out.
The draw happened yesterday, Monday.
That's right.
But the interesting thing is that the CONCACAF Champions League tries to do a bit of a show like the UEFA Champions League,
right? Like that secondary league.
Yeah. And it doesn't quite meet up to like I think the quality of a live event, a live show. They broadcast it, they stream it, but then they also have a translator on the thing. It's like a lot.
It also comes across just a little bit like one of those like regional public access. Just a little bit.
So they just
hire us is what I'm saying.
Up the production value a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't need to translate the stuff. Like just subtitle it.
Subtitles, baby.
People, they'll read it. It'll be fine.
Or picture in picture there's too many people on stage. Too many people.
There's a lot going on. And it doesn't really have the same exact star power of UEFA Champions League when it's like a bunch of players.
Which is the one way UEFA Champions League beats CONCACAF Champions League.
The only way.
That's it. It's just star
in production value.
Yeah.
Not in the quality of the game or the players.
No, not the fields either.
But no, let's take a look at the draw again because we do have a couple interesting games. And now MLS fans are going to have to decide if they want to travel to some of these games. So it's exciting. NYCFC will be playing against a Costa Rican team.
That's right.
So we have to decide, Alexis, do we want to go?
Are we going to Costa Rica?
Are we going to Costa Rica to watch a game?
I mean, it's up to us to decide, right? Like Montreal is going to be playing Saprissa. Club America is playing a team I've never seen before. Atlanta United is playing a club I've never heard of before. But Cruz Azul, LAFC is playing León in Mexico.
That's the big one.
That's going to be wild.
That's the big one because nobody. So that was the one where León had to be in the other pot. So it was an MLS team was going to end up playing against a Liga MX team. So the point of it is that they tried to keep them in both spots so they don't play against each other until at least the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
But there was going to be one MLS team that had to play a Liga MX team, and LAFC
going home.
So that's going to be a big one because we've already seen people. Shout out to Valeria, who she already booked. Saw this trip, booked it, which is incredible. So
that's incredible. She's like, we're ready to go.
You love the devotion from MLS fans, man. It's just like as soon as the Champions League is becoming a bigger thing and more important because it isn't. There was always the CONCACAF Championship per se, but now people are so much more dedicated to like, all right, if we want to make it similar to the UEFA Champions League, this is the kind of commitment.
We have to dedicate ourselves to it. Yeah,
exactly.
But I think it also comes part and parcel with MLS clubs getting better. The more eyes from America are on it, just the better this competition is going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It looks like NYCFC is playing a team called AOSC.
Yes.
Which has a star above its crest, so they've won something, right? We don't know what, but they've won something.
We have to do homework. Or whatever.
Sounders are playing Olympia, which is a really big. Saprissa versus Montreal is going to be wild. That's
they played. Didn't they play Olympia in the last time they were in the Champions League? I could be mistaken.
I don't know, but I know this will be fun, yo.
Yeah, I'm excited so I think we have to figure out because we don't know when the actual game is going to be. It has a range. It's going to be between the NYCFC one
to the 27th.
So that's the second leg. The first leg
is 18th to the 20th.
18th to the 20th. So we don't know which game. So
that's it. We're going 3 days to Costa Rica.
I'm hoping it's not on the 18th because that's the day we tape. And if it's hopefully the next day or the Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, then we could probably go to the game.
Why don't the crew just come to Costa Rica with us?
Fubo, get on board.
Can I hear an applause from the cameraman if you want to go to Costa Rica?
Okay, we've decided it for everybody at the up top.
Fubo.
Everybody on staff wants to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
So
Get the Live X is coming too. Yo. Get the travel agents on board, baby. Let's do this.
A lot of big games. So those are going to be starting in February, and it's going to be dope. So make sure you tune in to those games because again, they'll be on.
It's going to be fire.
They'll be on Fubo as well.
We got more when we get back.
All right. Thank you.
We can't both do it. Also, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
I said it first, technically. No, thank you. Also, thank you to our guest this week.
What an incredible Ives Galarcep joining us today. Aiko Para.
Yeah, also joined us. Look, we bring you the stars of American soccer, both players and journalists, and obviously the biggest stars of all, us.
Exactly, but only if their name starts with I.
That's right.
Rules are rules.
Yeah, we got to follow them. So please let us know if there's anyone else we can have on this show. No, but it's been amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed looking at my knees for 60 minutes.
Yeah,
because first time I've exposed my knees on television.
Let me just say, from up close, wild ashy. Okay, my man needs to.
Wow, very disrespectful.
What's in the water, my guy?
Lotion up quite well.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You got some hard water coming out of your shower.
Yo, let me see your knees, dog.
I'll show you these knees right now, my guy. Let me say goodbye.
Yo, zoom in on these knees, man.
Yeah, you think I won't pull my knees down? What you know about this knee right here? Look how pale this joint is. But hydrated, touch that. That's the moistest knee you've ever touched, my guy.
I've never seen a sweatier knee. I'll be honest.
Hell yeah, son. It's wild hot in this studio.
Thanks again. Make sure to follow us at Soccer Cooligans, at Fubo Sports, and follow the YouTube channel so you can watch all the old episodes. My name is Christian Polanco.
I'm Alexis Guerrero.
And together, what are we?
The Cooligans!